ओ ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे। रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचमो रामाय तस्मै नमः। रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं। श्रीरामाय नमस्तुभ्यं कृपया तव शक्यते सुखेनाभ्यसितुं लब्धं ज्ञानं दैनिकजीवने। We'll do some Nama Sankirtanam. पुरुषोत्तमाय राम नमो पुरुषोत्तमाय राम नमो पावनाय राम नमो पावनाय राम नमो प्राणदाय राम नमो प्राणदाय राम नमो प्रमोदनाय राम नमो प्रमोदनाय राम नमो आनन्दाय राम नमो आनन्दाय राम नमो अचिन्त्याय राम नमो अचिन्त्याय राम नमो अपराजिताय राम नमो अपराजिताय राम नमो अद्भुताय राम नमो अद्भुताय राम नमो उद्भवाय राम नमो उद्भवाय राम नमो ऊर्जिताय राम नमो ऊर्जिताय राम नमो उज्ज्वलाय राम नमो उज्ज्वलाय राम नमो उपेन्द्राय राम नमो उपेन्द्राय राम नमो राम 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 नमो Ram 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 Namo Ram 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 Namo सियावर रामचंद्र की जय श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय Hari Om. One of the results of Vedanta is that it does samsara nivrutti. Vedanta does samsara nivrutti, means it destroys our samsara. The literal meaning of that word is this. Now, if we ask, what is the meaning of samsara according to us? So, if my understanding of samsara is, let us say, having a house or having a car, I say that is my samsara. Then obviously the student should ask the question, how will studying Vedanta destroy, or I hope it does not destroy that samsara. This is where we should look at the word samsara from the lens of Advaita Vedanta. Vedanta says erroneous understanding of aham, I, is samsara. Means I have identified with something which I am not, as though I have embraced them, and then I start taking up all the problems from what I have taken to be myself. Body has birth and death. I say I have birth and death. Body has change. I say I am undergoing change. This ahankara is karta bhokta. I start feeling I am karta bhokta. I referring to pure consciousness, Shuddha Chaitanya. This is where we saw the sentence that Vedanta is telling us nahankaro manobuddhihi deho naham kadachana. And this chintanam I should keep doing again and again. Iti Vedanta vakyasya bhavaschintya punah punah. Again and again dwell. What does it mean to say that I am not the body, I am not the mind? What is my conviction about these statements? In this way, Vedanta will do samsara nivrutti. It will tell me that samsara never belonged to me to begin with. It won't destroy anything. Knowledge cannot destroy anything which is physical in nature. Now the student is paying attention. He says, "Oh teacher, I have a question now." So teacher says, "Yes, tell what is your question." So student asks, "Teacher, you told me that body, mind, intellect, ahankara, all of that is inert. And that is not me. And I am pure consciousness, Shuddha Chaitanya, Atman." He says, "How can inert object have samsara? Inert object is inert. It doesn't even know anything. So that cannot have samsara." Okay, then what is the option left? He says Atman. He says Atma is Nitya Asamsari. Atman will never have, pure consciousness is unassociated with samsara. So he says, "Teacher, my question is, inert object cannot have samsara. Pure consciousness cannot have samsara. So who has samsara?" So teacher is very happy with this question. He says, "Welcome to Vedanta." This is where our Vedanta Chintanam will begin. Questioning who has samsara. And the teacher then points out saying that samsara is a result of erroneous thinking. You bring knowledge, understand that you are pure consciousness where there is only appearance of samsara. And it will appear very real. It will continue to appear after knowledge takes place. Only knowledge, what it will do is, it will make sure that you understand it is different degrees of reality. no matter how big the desert mirage water looks, it can never touch the sand. So that two planes which we had discussed earlier, the bottom one being the absolute plane and the top one being Vyavaharika, the relative plane, transactional plane. Knowledge will tell me that both of these can never come together and get mixed up. That is Vedanta Darshanam. And to own up this knowledge, I will need to tune up my body, tune up my mind, tune up my intellect, and also this ahankara, make it as sattvic as possible so that I can appreciate what Vedanta is trying to tell us. The whole purpose of doing Vedanta Chintanam is that at the end of the day, I need to see that I am abiding in this knowledge. That is, living Vedanta. So Vedanta will teach us the art of right thinking. This we saw earlier also. And once I understand nature of Atman and Anatma, then I will know the art of right conduct also. How to interact with Anatma. And we don't have to rush too much on this path. That sometimes whenever we hear some idea, we feel that we get very motivated, excited, and try to jump across. So it is said, go slow. Right? There is a prakriya. Prakriya means a method by which this teaching will be revealed in very systematic way. Although the final teaching is revealed, the path to reach that destination is also given in Vedanta. So that is how this text is unfolding. If you have noticed, Puja Guruji started with how to make the best use of this body and so on. So if you remember the trail map that we had seen, analogy of trail map that we had seen in the first lecture, that road will always start from where I am right now. That is only when that map will be useful and that path will be useful. Right? So this trail map is telling me you are here. And now it will slowly guide me ahead. The first signboard on that trail map was how to make the best use of this body. So there we saw that three things were mentioned in this text. One was Sarva Bhuta Hite, using it for benefit of, or for using it for serving others. Second was Nishreyasa, for gaining knowledge. And third was for cultivating love for Bhagwan. And it was said that trying to stay equanimous in every situation that we are faced with. Three types of situation: Ishtam, Anishtam, Mishram. Means things which I like, what I don't like, and mixture of both of them. And this sadhaka is such now that this itself becomes his inspiration now. We need to keep finding some new inspiration to walk this path of sadhana. That anytime we find an idea that we can own up, that becomes an inspiration for that sadhaka. So now he looks at these three and says, okay, how can I practice these things now? What changes can I bring in my regular routine? So that was our first stop on that trail. Okay. Then the second stop was mind. How to make the mind obedient. How to befriend the mind. So that was the second one. And there we saw two main aspects of reducing the quantity of thoughts. Not to think about sense objects, and improving the quality of thoughts, cultivating love for Bhagwan so that more divine virtues are cultivated in us. And this we also looked at from a sadhana standpoint, where it was said not to act on any negative vasanas that we see, not to translate them into action. Let it pass away like a dream and not to endorse that particular action and substitute it with positive thoughts, positive vasanas. Do more satsang so that new ideas can replace those old ideas. This particular tendency of seeing negative vasanas, technically it is called as kashaya. And the solution given is this, where it is said, sakashayam vijaniyat. That just know this kashaya. You don't have to do anything with it. Because more we fight it, more it comes to hold us back. So then it is said, just keep pouring fresh water. The old, the impure water will get clean by itself. You don't have to worry too much about that. So then it was said, the final idea that we saw in the last class was that Bhagwan, may my mind have Shiva Sankalpa. Okay, so may my mind always have auspicious thoughts. So that was the second, stop sign on that trail that we saw. Now comes the third portion, which is one of the most important portions for when it comes to Vedanta. Because we saw earlier that my main concern or main problem is ignorance, ajnanam. And ignorance will go only through knowledge. And knowledge will come through Shravanam. Shravanam means when I listen to Vedanta from a teacher, from, whenever I study Vedanta, that is called Shravanam. But to remove ignorance, displace ignorance, this Shravanam needs Balam. Balam means strength. And that strength comes from Shraddha. Shraddha and our conviction, that we have in Vedanta, in teacher, in Shastra. That Shraddha will bring this force onto Shravanam such that words will be able to displace ignorance. This is where intellect will play a major role. So now we will see in the next couple of verses, Vedanta told me I'm not the intellect. But how should I translate this understanding in my daily living? Okay, so that we will see now. Verse number 10, page 36. Those of you who have the physical copy, I think it should be same on the online, but it might be different. Please check. Verse number 10. Buddhim tu sarathim vidhi. Buddhim tu sarathim vidhi. Yanaye dratha jivanam. Yanaye dratha jivanam. Karya karya vivekena. Karya karya vivekena. Manushasya dine dine. Manushasya dine dine. Buddhim tu sarathim vidhi. Yanaye dratha jivanam. Karya karya vivekena. Manushasya dine dine. Buddhim tu sarathim vidhi. Know the intellect to be the charioteer. And what kind of charioteer? Ya ratha jivanam nayet. Means the charioteer who will drive this chariot of my life. How will he drive it? Manushasya karya karya vivekena dine dine ratha jivanam nayet. Means it will drive my chariot by telling me what to do and what not to do. Doing this discrimination between what has to be done and what should not be done. Karya akarya vivekena. Okay, this is the literal meaning of this shloka. Now let us think a little on this one. Buddhi, right? Intellect is translated as buddhi. And this van pratyaya, right? Buddhiman or van or man means the one who has that particular thing is called man. Like dhanavan. Dhanam asti yasya dhanavan. The one who has dhanam is called dhanavan. Hanuman. One who has a chin is called Hanuman. But when we come to buddhiman, it is not just sufficient to have a buddhi. One who has buddhi is not called buddhiman. So I should know that intellect should be employed in the right way. Then only that person is called a buddhiman. So what kind of intellect are we seeking now? Okay, in this next few shlokas, simply put, we are seeking a sattvika buddhi, an intellect which is sattvic. In fact, any Gayatri that we chant, this is the main prayer there. Om Dasharathaya Vidmahe Sita Vallabhaya Dhimahi Tanno Ramah Prachodayat. Means may Lord Rama make my intellect more sattvic. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Literal meaning of that mantra is that may my intellect become more sattvic. So this is the main essence of these next shlokas from 10 to 13. Okay, verse number 10 to 13. How to translate I am not the intellect into daily living is make it a sattvic intellect. And this sattvic buddhi alone will be able to hold on to this knowledge that I am Brahma and I am not buddhi. Okay, if that intellect is too rajasic or if it's too tamasic, then this knowledge will not become settled. So that is the main point of this set of shlokas, that may my intellect be more sattvic. So buddhi, that word we saw, buddhim tu sarathim viddhi. So now that first line of this shloka is a beautiful metaphor. Metaphor of a chariot. Like this is the chariot of life, Ratha Jivanam. So the body, this is from Kathopanishad, that body is the chariot. And the owner of the chariot is Atman, the absolute self. And the reins of this, or the charioteer, is intellect. The charioteer who is driving the chariot is intellect. The reins of the chariot are the minds. And the horses of the chariot are our sense organs. And the road on which this chariot is going are these objects, which are there. And this chariot now has to go on those. So there are some points that we can think about this chariot analogy. It is said that my intellect should be the charioteer of this chariot. So it should be like the charioteer of Arjuna. Like Bhagwan Shri Krishna was the charioteer of his chariot. My intellect means the intellect which has done Shravanam of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so Bhagwan being charioteer means what? Bhagwan's words will be the charioteer of my life. Whenever I have confusion, whenever I have doubts, I should refer to Bhagavad Gita and seek guidance from that text on how to think about situations. Mahatma Gandhi ji had made a beautiful statement where he said, whenever I need guidance, I don't remember the exact words, but it was something like this. I open any shloka of the Gita and read, and it gives me motivation. So imagine what is the depth of every shloka, that you open any shloka and read, you will find something out of it. Okay, that is this intellect being the charioteer. And another thing to note here in this analogy is charioteer is intellect, right? The reins are the mind, and sense organs are the horses. So intellect is not directly controlling sense organs. Intellect might have great ideas, great ambitions, everything, but it has to guide the mind first, and mind will control the sense organs. Okay, my chariot should be like that. That intellect is so friendly with this mind, or mind has become so friendly to the intellect, either way you put, and both of them together are guiding my sense organs and this chariot of my life. And most importantly, the chariot should go where the charioteer wants, not where the horses want. Imagine a chariot where the control of that chariot is with horses which are non-cooperative. In that Kathopanishad mantra, this is how it says. First it will describe the chariot, and then it says what happens to the one whose horses are not cooperating. Dushta Shwaha. So they will go their way. Worst is if one horse wants to go this way, another wants to go that way. That's another problem. So this person will be pulled apart. So that is this chariot. Okay, but the conclusion of this set of mantras in Kathopanishad is very nice, where it says, Vijnana Saratharyastu Manah Pragrahavan Naraha So Advanah Paramapnoti Tadvishnoho Paramam Padam. Means the one who has this kind of an intellect as his charioteer, and the one who consistently makes this effort by bringing the mind under control and puts forth sincere efforts, that person reaches the supreme goal. So advanah paramapnoti Vishnoho paramam padam. Means there is no doubt that he will be able to live Vedanta. Okay, but this step is unavoidable. That I cannot let go of this horses without having intellect be the charioteer. Okay, so that was the first line of this shloka. Buddhim tu saratim vidhi yanayed ratha jivanam. Now comes, how will this intellect be my charioteer? By doing this viveka, karya, akarya. Karya, akarya means it should guide me on what is my duty, what should I do and what should I not do. Our Swamiji used to say during the course, Swami Bodhatmanandaji, that before we do Nitya Anitya Viveka, Drug Drishya Viveka, Atma Anatma Viveka, first Viveka is how much should I eat, how much should I not eat. He says Anatma Anatma Viveka will come first. Because we might talk about Atma Anatma Viveka, but if I have problems in Anatma Anatma Viveka, I should start from there. So for brahmacharis, that was like a perfect example that he used to give us. I always remember that. So here Puja Guruji says, intellect should be able to do karya, akarya, viveka. Very straightforward way of putting this, that it should tell me what I should do and what I should not do. Dine dine means at every step, it should have this clarity. Now somebody will ask, how will I decide what is karya and what is akarya? So whenever I use the word karya, akarya, understand the meaning of it also. Karya means what should be done. Akarya means what should not be done. Okay. So karya, akarya, viveka will be decided based on our dharma. And it will be different for different people. The stage of life that we are in, that will decide what is karya, what is akarya. If I'm a brahmachari, somebody is grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi. All of that will have different karya and akarya. For example, for a brahmachari, waking up early in the morning, Brahma Muhurta time, it is karya. Observing all other rules of brahmacharya, that is karya. But let us say some brahmachari says that, Bay Area is so nice. There are a lot of startups. And I think I have great ideas. Why don't I also start a startup? That is akarya. Brahmachari and startup, that cannot go together. That is not his dharma. Okay, this is how, which dharma I am, which stage of life I am, brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi, that will decide what is karya, what is akarya. And also different roles that we play, like a mother, father, son, daughter. Every role that we play will have some karya, some akarya. Okay, that will come along with those roles. Only thing is that we should know what are they. These are with relations, right? Even at your work, when we join any new company, the first thing that they give us is policies and regulations. Policies and procedures you call rules and regulations. It's the first document they give on the orientation day itself. That is karya akarya. What should I do? What should I not do? So karya akarya is can be looked at in different ways over here. But when it comes to our own conduct, our own life, Bhagavad Gita is the best place to go for understanding what is karya, what is akarya. In today's world that we live in, if somebody says, I don't know what is should be done, what should not be done, and I don't have that capacity to study entire Vedas, entire the detailed dharma shastras which are there, where should I look for guidance? So it is said, look at Bhagavad Gita. Now, what does Gita say? Bhagavad Gita says, Yajna dana tapah karma na tyajyam karyam eva tat. Because yajna dana tapa means acting with a spirit of sacrifice, giving what I have earned to the community, danam. Tapa, conserving my potential so that I can orient it towards my spiritual growth. Yajna dana tapa, these three things should not be given up. Okay, so karyam eva tata means I should do that. So that way, Bhagavad Gita will help us in this deciding, what is karya, what is akarya. Then, what will happen with this karya akarya viveka is, one is I'll be able to accomplish my goal for which I've taken up that role, like in company or work. If I follow karya akarya thoroughly, that will give me a lot of inner strength, and my goal there will be very well accomplished. At the same time, I will also get purity of mind. That is actually the main result. Being efficient at work, accomplishing good results, that will come automatically along with it. But the main result that will come is purity of mind. So this intellect, which has karya akarya viveka, which is the charioteer of my chariot, will help me go in that direction. But the point is, many a times, it is not that we don't know what is karya, what is akarya. Not that we don't know what should be done, what should not be done. Even after knowing what should be done, we are unable to pursue that thing. This is the challenge of a sadhaka many a times. Because karya akarya, to know that is very easy, right? You read one shloka, you will understand. But actually being able to do what is karya, that is where the struggle is. So it is said, this is where I have to work on my buddhi, work on my intellect. and ask this question: who is deciding karya for me right now? If I ask this question, few answers we will get. One is my own vasanas. Okay, if I have a strong vasana for ice cream and I know that I'm getting cold, but yet I would want to eat ice cream, knowing that it is a karya. Okay, so that is, direct way where we see that vasanas are deciding what I do, in spite of knowing that I should not be doing that. Second is habits. We get into the habit of sleeping late, then you see it's very hard to come out of it. Another is urgent things. We try to get only urgent things out of the way, and what is important, that gets left behind. Guruji mentioned this point in Kathopanishad, that most of the times our life is driven by what is urgent. Okay, so this is a seasoned procrastinator, you call, where entire thing revolves around what is urgent. So this is where we should take a moment and look at our life and say, where is my chariot headed? Because dine dine is said, right? Means every day I should think about this particular idea. That if I keep doing this every day, I cannot expect any new thing to happen in life. Right? So then we should take some time back and reflect upon this, that where am I headed? So then gradually our intellect will get more convictions in our teachings of scriptures, teaching of Shastra. Somebody still asks, is there any solution now? Okay, you said we should do karya viveka. Then you said for that we need to strengthen the intellect. But how do you actually strengthen this intellect? There is no magic solution that overnight this intellect will become brilliant and strong such that it can take my chariot of life ahead. And if somebody promises magical solution, we should be very skeptical, because sadhana process is a process of evolution. It cannot be forced and it cannot be sudden. So I should know that it won't be sudden shift, that my intellect suddenly starts doing what I want to do. So that's why Bhagwan said in Gita, Uddharet Atmana Atmanam. Means lift, we should try to lift ourselves by ourselves. And that's why I said in the beginning, it's okay if we are going slow, but in the right direction. So he said, Uddharet Atmana Atmanam, right? Intellect should raise this mind every time it falls down or it thinks low about itself. And the sure short solution is to have faith in Bhagwan and make a very strong sankalpa for change. This is in Bhagavad Gita called as Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. That person who has made this sankalpa that I am going to put sincere effort to change, Bhagwan says it doesn't matter where you started, where you are now, you are a sadhu purusha. Sadhureva samantavyam samyak vyavasito hi saha. One who has made this resolve, that person is a sadhu purusha. And then Bhagwan says, Kaunteya pratijaniti name bhakta pranashyati. Means he says to such a seeker, I will help him. And he tells to Arjuna that you go and declare to the world that my devotee never perishes. If you see the flow of thoughts in that chapter, we should notice or look at whom is Bhagwan calling a bhakta over there. The previous verse is this sadhu purusha, who has made sure that his resolve is sincere, his resolve is strong, and he is ready to walk this path. So Bhagwan says that person is, sadhu purusha, and I will help him in overcoming his negativities. Okay, so this topic also comes in Bhagavatam. When we study that, we will look there also. Bhagwan says, it doesn't matter, where we are right now. He says, you just start walking and then you see how this path starts unfolding for you. This is, Anubhava Siddha only. No matter how much we, try to intellectualize it or something, it won't give us that import unless we ourselves try to walk this path and see how Bhagwan's grace comes. So this was the summary of the shloka, that Buddhi should be my charioteer and it should help me lead this chariot by doing karya akarya viveka. Okay, what should be done, what should not be done. And this also shows that, student of Vedanta is very practical. Where planning is needed, he will plan. Where discrimination is needed, he will discriminate. He's not somebody who, because everything is one, he will not do anything or not do any kind of vyavahara with viveka. Okay, so that is the essence of this shloka. All right, so now we will move to the next shloka, which is how to make the best use of intellect. Okay, this shloka told us that intellect should be sattvic. Okay, now this is another elaboration only of what is a sattvic intellect. So we will see that. We will chant the shloka first. Yadvishaye pramanam yat yadvishaye pramanam yat जानीयात् तत्प्रमाणतः जानीयात् तत्प्रमाणतः स्वरूपं निश्चितं तस्य स्वरूपं निश्चितं तस्य कर्म कुर्यान्नरस्ततः कर्म कुर्यान्नरस्ततः यद्विषये प्रमाणं यत् जानीयात् तत्प्रमाणतः स्वरूपं निश्चितं तस्य कर्म कुर्यान्नरस्ततः यद विषये यत् प्रमाणं तत् स्वरूपं प्रमाणतः जानीयात् means determine the nature of an object by employing the right means of knowledge for that particular object. Means of knowledge is pramana. And after having determined that, swarupam nishchitam tasya manavaihi means tatah naraha karma kuryat. Means person should do the action, not before that. Okay, so the shloka says, first we should gain clear knowledge of any object, any situation by using this intellect and using the right means of knowledge. This is going to be the key phrase of a couple of shlokas now. So please get familiar with this phrase. Right means of knowledge means pramana. Okay. So by using right means of knowledge, gain knowledge of that situation or that object. And after having done that, then you do the action. Those of you who watched the Hanuman Jayanti celebrations, the Hanuman Chalisa Parayanam, towards the last end of it, Puja Guruji addressed, and there he mentioned this point. So he said, Hanumanji never did anything without thinking. Kapimana Kina Vichara. Means wherever he went, whether it was in Ashok Vatika or whether it was in Ravana's palace, wherever he went, he would first analyze the situation, get clear knowledge first. What is the situation? Where am I right now? What is my strength? Everything he would analyze. But once having determined the situation, he would make sure that the work sees the end. He won't stop in between or he won't turn back and go. So nothing of that sort. That is this particular verse where it says that main role of intellect is to decide on right pramana. right means of knowledge, and then gain the knowledge, do the action based on that knowledge. Okay. In Tattva Bodha, we saw the definition of mind, which was Sankalpa Vikalpatmakam Manaha. Means mind is that which is always oscillating or analyzing, evaluating different thoughts. And intellect is Nishchayatmika Buddhi. That which determines, that which decides, that is Buddhi. So the question becomes, how does Buddhi become Nishchayatmika? How does Buddhi become Nishchayatmika? That is through Pramana. Means when it knows what is the right means of knowledge, knowledge will be thorough, and based upon that knowledge, I can take a firm decision. Okay, that is the link here between how does Buddhi become Nishchayatmika. So you see this verse, how nicely it points out that Buddhi will help me to use the right Pramana. That will help me become firm in my decisions. And whenever I have clear, doubtless knowledge, and I've used the right means of knowledge to gain that doubtless knowledge, my interaction will be very smooth. Okay. So we'll see more in detail, but this is the big picture idea. So this word I'll explain a little bit for those who are new. It might be a little, it will keep coming again. So it is good that we clarify it in the beginning itself. What does pramana mean? So there are three entities, okay? 1, 2, and 3. First entity is called Pramata. Okay, first entity is called Pramata, who is the knower. Second entity is called Prameya, which is object of knowledge. And third entity is Pramana, which is a means of knowledge used to get knowledge. Okay, Pramata, Prameya, Pramana. See, all these three are mentioned in shloka only. Huh? I'm not telling something very different. Naraha, that word that comes in the second line, karma kuryat naraha tataha, that is pramata. Yad vishaye, means vishaya is that prameya, that object is the second one, which is in front of me. Third one is pramanam, means means of knowledge. So that is the next word, yad vishaye pramanam yata. So pramata, the knower, prameya, object of knowledge, and pramana, the means of knowledge. Means I am looking at image on the screen. Okay, I am the pramata. Image on the screen is prameya, and means of knowledge is pramana. Now, if I use the intellect, or the use of intellect is in deciding the third one, the right means of knowledge. And if knowledge is uncertain, the efforts that I put will not be wholehearted. Means if I have used wrong pramana, knowledge will not be firm of this prameya vastu. So I'll give an example. Let's say you go to an airport, and there you ask, which gate is my flight departing from? And they tell you 50A. So then you start walking briskly, towards that gate, looking at all the shops and everything, and you are very focused. You see where you are and you are going ahead. For some reason, you happen to see the information board there, and there you see it says 15A, 15A. Now you tell me, will you have the same kind of confidence to go ahead? You'll start thinking, is it 50 or is it 15, 15? So when doubt comes, right, when knowledge is having a doubt, our efforts won't be wholehearted. So you will try to clarify. You'll go to the right counter, or you know that information shown there is more authentic than what I heard. So then I will take a decision and go ahead. But I will not continue without resolving this doubt in my knowledge. So in the same way, when it comes to Vedanta, if we have doubt about how I am Brahma, which pramana should I use to know I am Brahma? If doubts are there, if I use wrong pramana, our efforts won't be wholehearted. Right? So buddhi will help me decide which pramana is to be used for what. This pramana word is keeps coming again and again. I hope that word is clear. It is means of knowledge. So even in transactions, we know that once pramana is clear, knowledge will be doubtless. Okay, so three things will happen. One is intellect will choose right pramana, doubtless knowledge will come. From that, my efforts will be wholehearted. Okay, so these three things will happen. So now it is said, why is it important to know which pramana to use? Because Guruji in that line said, Yad Vishaye Pramanam Yata Janiyat, means understand which pramana is to be used for which object. Now somebody might say, how do I know this? Or why should I bother about this? This is a fascinating topic actually, okay, if we understand. So just, I hope all of you are with me so far. Any knowledge will take place through right means of knowledge, right? So if I use wrong pramana, my knowledge will be erroneous, transaction will be erroneous. So if let us say I need to know whether the food is hot or not. So if food is hot or not, pramana for it is not ice or smell. I can't smell a food and say maybe it is hot or it is not hot. So pramana, if it is not correct, it could be very deceptive. Right pramana is touch. Okay, so that is where I will have right association with that. Salt in food. Many times this is a very challenging thing. Is the food right in that? Is the salt right in the food? I can keep staring at that food, but taste is my right pramana to know whether salt is right. We'll take it a little further now. When I have this, thought process of looking at right pramana, our transactions in the world will be very well informed. This is actually the role of intellect. Means I won't get carried away by opinions and assumptions. I'll give you an example. I read one article, and the title of that article was, "It may be the end of the world in 2020." So I was, taken aback. This is an article and by, published by a leading magazine, and it said, "It may be the end of the world in 2020." I saw who has written this article. Go to say it's a fiction writer. So then I thought that we should know which pramana to use where. Right? So these are opinions which many a times, if we don't go into where are they coming from, we will just get swayed away here. And this we are looking at Vyavaharik level. We have not even gone to Vedanta Pramana. It will come maybe in the next class, definitely not now. So even in worldly transactions, we see this. Assumptions. Many a times it happens to us that we see someone who did not look at us. Let us say a boss or somebody who did not look at us. And we conveniently assume that this person is unhappy with me. Confidently. And we carry on our transactions with this knowledge. Now to know emotions of a person, eyes are not pramana. Means it could be right sometimes, it could be otherwise. Okay, if at all I want to know how that person is feeling, I should go and ask. Okay, so this praman vichara is not only in books. Right? If we make it as our habit, habit or you say personality, to go to the right source, then we will benefit a lot, from pramana. So a little more about pramana. Pramana is that which is an exclusive means of knowledge. Means, as I pointed out, that whatever one pramana reveals, other pramana cannot interfere there. Let us say if I need to, know whether this person is a great singer, I can keep looking at the person. I will never know whether this person is able to sing or not. Okay, so pramana is ears. Eyes won't come and interfere in this knowledge. Okay, so these are the fundamental blocks. Later, when we come to Vedanta pramana, this understanding is going to help us a lot. Right? So I'm going very slow in this. Those of you who have studied, it must be a revision. But those of you who are new to this topic, so it's a very beautiful topic to dwell more in detail on, Praman Vichara. And when I understand this, I will have a lot of reverence in studying Shastra, studying Gita with this Pramana Buddhi. That what Bhagavad Gita and Upanishad is telling me, that is the only way that I can know this subject matter. I won't mix up too many things and get confused with the whole knowledge. So if you come on page number 42 of the book, so Puja Guruji has mentioned 3 different types of pramana. Okay, so I'll just refer to those. One is called pratyaksha pramana, means where you see direct perception through the eyes. Any sense organ. So that is pratyaksha pramana. Then there is inference. You see a smoke on a mountain. So then you infer there is fire there. This is anumana pramana. And the third one is called shabda pramana, verbal testimony. Okay, verbal testimony is of 2 types. One is laukika shabda pramana, means let us say I tell you that during this lockdown time, Monday I did Shiva Puja. So you have not seen here, right? Pratyaksha pramana you did not use, nor can you do inference because you did not use pratyaksha. So my words will create knowledge. Okay, so remember, pramana is always to create knowledge. Huh? It is not independent topic. So like that, this is laukika shabda pramana. And then there is alaukika shabda pramana. That is Vedanta pramana. Means it is going to tell me something which is beyond our sense perceptions. Okay, so 3 things we saw. One is pratyaksha pramana. Second is anumana pramana. Pratyaksha is direct perception. Second is inference. Third one is verbal testimony. And in verbal testimony, we saw 2 types. One is about worldly things. Worldly things means, that we can transact with. And then second is alaukika shabda pramana. Alaukika is of dharma, of Brahma, that which is not directly perceived by sense organs. That is Vedanta pramana. Okay. So these 3 are the main types. But I hope the main idea of this is clear, that when we understand Praman Vichara thoroughly, I won't try to employ Vedanta Pramana to understand world, and I won't try to use some worldly Pramana to understand Brahma. That is the main essence. Okay, so that we will pause here. There were many things that we saw today, so I hope we get an opportunity to reflect on them, mainly with this buddhi, different pointers that we saw of how to make this as the charioteer of my life, and then use it for knowing the nature of the object through right pramana. Okay, so we'll pause here, and there are some announcements, so please stay back. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.